Joe Nesbø's Harry Hole novels have sold more than 50 million copies worldwide, establishing the troubled Oslo detective as one of the defining anti-heroes of modern crime fiction, a figure as famous in Scandinavia as Sherlock Holmes is in Britain and nearly as damaged. Netflix's long-awaited adaptation arrives with an extraordinary pedigree and a proposition that is almost impossible to resist. What if the creator adapted his own work, set it against a gothicized version of Oslo's real geography, and scored it with Nick Cave and Warren Ellis? A heat wave hits a holiday-quiet Oslo. In an apartment by the cemetery, small black lumps begin to drip through the floor. At the same time, police detective Harry Hole is lying on the floor in his small apartment, drunk, dismissed, and abandoned by his girlfriend. This is the man we are going to follow for 9 episodes. He is not a detective in a comfortable armchair, surrounded by admiring colleagues. He is a functioning alcoholic with a brilliant mind and a self-destructive genius for applying it in ways that make institutional authority deeply uncomfortable. Harry falls headfirst back into the bottle, loses his girlfriend Raquel and her son Oleg, and nearly loses his job on the force because he can't put the bottle down. But Harry, who strongly suspects Waaler killed his partner, is pulled back into service when a grisly serial killer surfaces, and Hole is the only detective with any experience in that arena. Detective Hole operates on 2 tracks simultaneously, and the series' central structural tension comes from watching them converge. Track 1, the bike courier killer. A serial murderer is operating through Oslo's sweltering streets. We don't see the killer, but we hear his voice in Swedish, repeating the same mantra. Open your eyes, it's a simple pattern. A red guiding star, a 5-pointed devil's cross will show you the way. Each crime scene bears the same signature, a missing finger and a tiny pentagram-shaped red diamond left in the victim's eyelid. The murders follow a ritualistic pattern that suggests something ancient, organized, and deeply intentional. Track 2, Tom Waaler. Harry suspects that his colleague, Captain Tom Waaler, is hiding something. Tom appears to have connections to several criminal operations, and he even does business with arms smuggler Martin Amino. He's operating in a gray zone where he's able to justify for himself that what he's doing is morally right, even though the means to get there isn't exactly by the book. In the hunt for his corrupt colleague Tom Waaler, Harry has lost his closest colleague, and only he knows that Tom Waaler is behind the murder. This is the knowledge Harry carries through the entire series, the certain conviction that the man sitting beside him in the police station is a murderer, and his inability to prove it is the engine of his psychological deterioration. The serial killer does have a pattern. He cuts off a different finger from each victim, always kills on the 5th floor, and Harry eventually discovers a geographic pattern by overlaying a devil's symbol over a map of the city. The pentagram geography is one of the series' most visually striking conceits. Oslo itself reimagined as a crime scene, with the city's streets forming the lines of a satanic symbol. Nesbø, who adapted his own novel for the screen, gives Harry the kind of lateral intellectual breakthrough that the genre demands, while making it feel earned rather than convenient. The killing of Ellen Gjelten, a character the series has spent considerable time establishing as warm, competent, and Harry's truest professional anchor, is one of the most genuinely shocking deaths in recent Scandinavian television. Ellen's death does something crucial to the series. It transforms Harry's suspicion of Waaler from a procedural subplot into something deeply personal, and it establishes Waaler not merely as a corrupt cop, but as a man capable of methodical, cold-blooded murder dressed as professional tragedy. Late in the series, a man named Martin Amino emerges as the chief suspect, a playboy who deals in both weapons and pink diamonds, conveniently connecting him to both Waaler and the actual serial killer, who constructed his elaborate pattern specifically to frame Amino. Martin Amino is, in the architecture of the mystery, a brilliant piece of engineering. He has the profile, the connections, the access to diamonds, and the psychological background to plausibly be a ritualistic killer. The investigation's momentum carries him toward a conviction that seems inevitable, but Harry is never entirely convinced. Something about the geometry of the murders feels too deliberate, too perfectly calibrated to point at one specific man. Harry begins to suspect that the crimes are not what they seem. He realizes what Willie must have done. The pivot that changes everything arrives when the police receive a package in the mail. The police receive a finger in the mail belonging to Lisbeth Barley, who died earlier in the series. After forensic evidence is discovered under her fingernail, the killer is revealed to be Lisbeth's husband, Wilhelm Willie Barley, a theater producer. When investigators find biological material under Lisbeth's fingernails containing fennel seeds, they trace it to the restaurant Theater Caffeine, where her husband, the respected theater director Willie Barley, had eaten on the day she disappeared. Because fennel seeds take around 12 hours to pass through the digestive system, Harry realizes what Willie must have done. After killing Lisbeth, Willie cut off her finger and hid it inside his rectum before the police searched his apartment with a dog after he reported his wife missing. It is the kind of detail that only Joe Nesbø would write and only mean people would think of. The concealment is simultaneously disgusting and procedurally airtight, a piece of evidence so outlandish that it reads as unimpeachable precisely because no one could have invented it. But the most disturbing revelation about Lisbeth is not the finger. It is what Willie did with the rest of her. Willie keeps her body hidden inside his apartment, sealed inside an air mattress filled with alcohol in an attempt to preserve it. What appears to be a waterbed is actually a tomb. Harry confronts Willie, who confesses to the murders. Years earlier, Willie had discovered that Martin and Lisbeth had been having an affair. Although Willie thought their relationship was over, he later found out that Martin and Lisbeth were still in contact. She had been sending him money in preparation to leave Willie. As a result, Willie killed his wife and devised an elaborate scheme to make it appear like Martin was killing people in Oslo, including Lisbeth. Willie, who is a director at a theater, orchestrates the entire illusion by killing his wife Lisbeth, creating additional murders to mimic a serial killer pattern, planting evidence to frame Martin, and using the diamonds as a recurring signature. Season 1 of Detective Hole isn't a serial killer case at all, it's a deeply personal revenge plot disguised as something bigger. In episode 6, Waaler lures George into the nearby toilet cubicles, equipped with a glory hole in the walls for the workers to service their clients, where the corrupt detective intimates he's going to kiss George. Instead, he uses a sword to cut off the worker's sensitive parts, then, as he sinks to the floor bleeding out, thrusts the weapon through the hole and into George's neck. In episode 9, Harry confronts Willie at his home, laying out the evidence that ties him to the murders. The key clue comes from Lisbeth's severed finger, which Willie sent to the police. Harry discovers another body. Lisbeth's sister Toya was in Willie's apartment and found out what happened. Willie killed her too. Before Harry can arrest him, Willie flees onto the balcony of his apartment. In the chaos that follows, Willie leaps to his death from the balcony, choosing to end his story on his own terms. Willie Barley dies by suicide after Hole realizes he is the bike courier killer. He jumps out of his 5th floor balcony window where he is impaled on an outdoor rotary clothes error stationed in the garden below. Toppled by the weight of Barley's body, it looks like a blood-spattered pentagram from above, a shot perfectly captured by cinematographer Ronald Plant. The pentagram image, the symbol that defined the entire serial killer mythology, reproduced in Willie's final act. After Waaler's death, Harry assumes, briefly, that the worst is over. It is not. Harry meets with Chief Superintendent Agnes Sjolid, who tells him she won't dismiss him. There are other rotten apples in the police force beyond Tom, and she needs his help to find them. But to do that, Harry would have to stay quiet about Tom's weapons smuggling operation. When Sjolid asks if Tom had any partners, Harry says not that he knows of. The series ends with the chief of police attempting to recruit Harry to root out corruption from within the force. It's a trap, of course. The chief is actually the woman running the entire weapons operation. This final revelation that the woman offering Harry a path to institutional legitimacy is herself the head of the criminal network he just dismantled the public face of reframes everything. The ending shows that solving a single case doesn't fix systemic corruption. While Harry catches the killer, the larger network of crime within the police remains active. Harry, who told Sjolid that Waaler had no partners he knew of, has either genuinely not identified her yet, or is playing the same game she is. The series does not resolve this. It leaves Harry standing at the mouth of a much larger cave than the one he thought he was investigating. Harry gives reporter Maya a way to make things right. He'll provide a story exposing everything, but only if something happens to him or the people he loves. It is the insurance policy of a man who knows he is now operating inside a system where the people who could betray him include the person who just promoted him. Raquel, at this point, has decided to take Harry back, but he walks away for her sake and Oleg's. Being close to him is a danger to their lives. It is the series' most quietly noble moment, and Santelman plays it with complete restraint. Harry Hole is capable of extraordinary sacrifice, just not for himself. He dismantles his own possibility of happiness with the same methodical precision he brings to a crime scene because the evidence is clear. The people who love him get hurt. The choice to walk away from Raquel is the series' emotional ending, even if it is not the plot's ending. A man brilliant enough to catch a killer who hid a murder inside a serial killer mythology is not clever enough to build a life, or is simply too aware of what he cost to try.